Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 192 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Ken Steorts. He's a original founding member of the band Skillet and also founding member of the Visible Music College. So we're going to talk all about his music journey and the college and a whole bunch of stuff today. So we're happy to have Ken with us. How's it going this morning?
That's great, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm
Great.
excited to chat. I always love talking music. I'm a huge music guy. I just love I don't like silence. I talk to some people and they're like, "Yeah, I don't listen to anything in the car." And I just like I've always got to have something going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Spent my life doing music, so I love that. I do like some quiet times, to get away, but I listen to music quite a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, love
So,
it.
when did you get into music as a kid? Like how old were you and like what got you into music?
Well, I had an older brother who played in the band, like middle school band, and I started there on trumpet, just playing music there. But in high school, found the guitar and sort of was gone after that from the band and started into jazz and all that. So probably around 12, I realized I was writing songs, just get my emotions out through, songs and had to play a guitar along with it. So
Could you still play the trumpet if you had to?
yeah, I did. A couple weeks ago, I gave one to my son, and I was like, I think I can still play some scales. And I was okay. A
Yeah.
little weak, but
Kind of like riding a bike, you just never forget.
yeah, you don't forget the fingerings after doing thousands of hours on.
Who are your music influences? Like, what kind of music did you really listen to as a kid?
Well, as a young kid, I was just listening to pop radio, and that was sort of the end of the disco era and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, late 70s, early 80s. But I got into as soon as I got the guitar in my hand, I got into metal, and that was my real like musical foundation. Although I do love pop stuff from older pop music, but maybe new wave things like that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, uh, Iron Maiden, Ozzy, all that was my early days of guitar. So
Yeah. Oh, that's all good stuff. That's the real roots of metal, that, the Iron Maiden stuff. I mean, that's where it all started. Like the heavy metal, Black Sabbath and Ozzy. I mean, the founding fathers of the metal genre.
yeah, that's right, that's right. And I had a lot of that. I was into Rush when I got into like philosophical prog rock and all that. I was very into those kind of bands in the early 80s. And but I always hated when you called Rush metal. It was like, what are you guys doing? That's
Yeah.
even
No,
back
Rush
then
isn't metal.
it was all rock, and then but they'd say like all the metal bands, like they used to say acid rock and metal. And I was like, these are all terrible terms for
Yeah.
this cool thing. Now we have a term for every band. Every band's a different genre, but
Right. Yeah, now I feel like you dive into metal, it's like, well, there's death metal and there's right like regular metal and there's progressive metal and there's metalcore and you're
right,
not just
right.
a metal band. What kind of a metal band are you?
Yeah, I think it all stemmed out of guys like me just being like, don't call Rush metal. Like, who is
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. No, Rush is fantastic. I mean, they've got a lot of great tunes and just fantastic guitar playing and bass work, just everything all around awesome group.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting time now. All those early bands have documentaries now of how they started, and it's all, older guys just thinking back to those times. And it was, I'm with young people all the time starting their careers in music, and it really was something special back then having bands with long concerts and long albums and stuff you could sit and listen to for a long time, rather than just,
Yeah.
playlist or whatever. But yeah,
Right. Yeah,
more.
music is it's changed so much the way it's made and put out there. Like you don't have to get a huge record deal to be successful now. You can get your music out so many different ways. People
uh
don't wait in line at the record store when the new record drops. They just go on Spotify at midnight and it's all there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
changed so many different ways, how we consume it, how you make it.
Yeah, I just read an article yesterday or a little video. It's like Justin Bieber put an album out. I was like, never heard about it. I didn't even know it was coming out. And he's like, arguably massive star still, even I guess.
Right.
But you just don't even hear like the big albums coming out on some date. You're just like, I'm online. I'll see it when it comes.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's benefits and there's pros and cons to it, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure if you talk to people who grew up waiting in line for the record, like they talk about how, they probably have fond memories, experiences. I remember when I waited for my first record or whatever. But,
Yeah, yeah.
now it is nice to have instant access. I mean, there's perks to that too. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to both.
Right. That's right. That's right. You got to look at life like that anyway.
Yeah, right. You can't always be a glass half empty person, right? You have to.
Some people persist, but I don't get it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you live with that mindset, generally you just make yourself miserable, and then people don't want to be around you because you're miserable, right?
That's right.
So let's talk Skillet. Like I said, you're one of the founding members and
Yeah.
guitarists, and Skillet's a band that I feel like most people who are into rock and metal have heard of Skillet. And even if you're not a diehard fan, you've at least heard Monster, some of the popular songs that Skillet ended up putting out. But so you founded it with John. So let's start with like how you met John and how you guys got going.
Well, it's great. We were both in a discipleship kind of program at a church, and we were both in local bands. I was sort of the lead guitar in a metal band, Christian metal band, doing camps and different clubs and stuff. And he was younger and in a band coming out of high school, sort of funky, uh, weird pop. But it was really prog rock guys doing pop, and so so it was cool, a very cool mix of music, and I enjoyed what they did. And we were in the same church together, and he was serving the youth. I was doing worship leading, and we ended up playing. We both left those bands and started our own three-piece bands. And so I had a punk band that was me singing and playing, and then he had a band that was funk, real funk, like crazy, crazy. And he was now just three guys. And we did this tour together where I played guitar. I learned his band. His guitar player couldn't go for some reason, so I played guitar for both bands. I would just, we'd switch. I don't even know who was first, but we rode in a van together. I played all his music, and it was fun. So we were, totally different personalities. I'm a real quiet guy, and reflective guy, and in my late 20s at that point, even, and so, but it was great. And our pastor talked to us about, these other guys may not do music the rest of their life, but you guys are serious. Why don't you? There's this drummer in the church, Trey, that we didn't really even know. I don't know how we didn't know him. He's in college group or something, and had put up the drums. He was sort of like a preppy guy. What do you call it? Fraternity dude, which is
Yeah.
not our thing. But so we're like, well, and the pastor said, once you call it Skillet, like throw everything in the skillet. I'm just like, we're like, stupid name, but let's, I think he'd probably say that till today, but yeah, let's write some music together, see what happens. And we had a little keyboard player, a friend from his previous band, played with us a little bit, help write, but it was better the three of us. And so we ended up doing that first show, opening for Folds Andura on a tour, because our church hosted all the cool music coming through the Christian market at that time in the mid 90s. And so I ran sound, and we were there every weekend. John was ministering, and so it was cool. Yeah, we just made a cassette together with a friend of ours. He recorded at his house, and we wrote some songs together. And we are weird. I mean, we always have been very weird. Like Queen meets punk meets, you know, whatever pop of the day and heavy. We both loved King's X. That was about the only band. Well, I mean, he liked Rush and all that, but the coming together point was probably King's X. We liked heavy and stuff that has good guitar and good message and great tone, you know.
Yeah. I love that how the name came. Just throw everything together, Skillet, and you guys kind of thought it was stupid, but now it's such a recognizable name. Like people just you say, "Hey, have you heard Skillet?" Yeah, I mean they've got over 10 million, almost 10.5 on Spotify and monthly listeners, which is huge for metal.
Yes.
Most metal bands you look and it's like, yeah, they got 2 or 3 million monthly listeners because it's such a dialed in right genre that not everybody loves. But Skillet, you can reach across the aisle and grab people who like pop, and you can grab people who just like
Yeah.
regular rock, and like you can get so many people into it.
Yeah, that was I think the appeal of Skillet, and it still is, and really John's appeal is that he's probably more of a pop guy than me, and really took it to the place where very accessible, very um, targeted lyrics and memorable hooks and all that, but heavy. We were always the heaviest band at every our first part of our career. We were the first rock band any church let in. Like it was different days back then. It was like, well, we don't want anybody jumping off the stage, and we don't want anybody. We don't want a mosh pit, and we're like, okay, it's fine. We're just here to play our music and do work. We would worship in our music, and John would preach, and so we're here to do what you guys need us to do. But we're going to be the heaviest band. We are going to melt the faces off of your youth, like that, like from day one. Like, sorry, that's happening.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's a funny mix, really, if you think back. But they've kind of made their own a little bit of their own niche. I know there's other bands like that, but pop and metal are hard to reconcile sometimes.
Yeah. And that first album you guys put out had kind of like a raw, grungy feel, which is a little bit different than like I feel like what people would consider modern Skillet.
Yeah, that was we were kind of first coming together, didn't know each other well. We put together the music pretty quick, and we just wrote on the road and everything. For the second record, well, yeah, and kind of getting new ideas. But yeah, I had just come out of I got a master's degree in music, and I was not listening to radio at the time, and I just sort of have the same influences, some of those Bush and Nirvana and all that. I wasn't really listening to them, never heard them till on tour. And but we wrote like that, and I've always and continue to love really raw guitar and messy, more like Hendrix type lineage, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's not playing a Paul Reed Smith. He's like about to come unglued and the amp is falling apart and it sounds killer. So I'm more that probably the raw stuff. And then John's uh, got a whole beautiful music side to him, plays piano really well. I don't know if people know. I can't remember how many videos have shown him playing piano at all, but he plays and writes tender music. And we just put like, heavy and tender, and all of our lyrics were sincere, godly guys doing ministry, really.
Yeah. There's something about kind of raw music too, though. You were talking about those bands, and like I think Metallica, I think Kill 'Em All is one of their best albums because it is really raw. If you listen to that, compare it to their new stuff, it's totally different. And I think there's
Yeah.
something special about that kind of those early groups when they're just trying to figure it out, and before you end up getting those full, made with a huge record deal, like you can totally tell the difference.
Yeah, if you listen to Iron Maiden Killer's record, which I grew up on cassette, like walking around with a Walkman, you
Yeah.
know, Iron Maiden, before any of their big stuff, it's like it's almost punk, and
Yeah.
it's young guys playing simple chord. They didn't know much music yet, but they early my guitar hero was Randy Rhoads, and the two Ozzy records that he made are just like weird song after weird song. It's like, okay, this is not, it's the band's not gelled yet. And
Right.
I think that's probably the early Skillet where we were like, okay, we like all kinds of weird stuff. We're open to Safe with You, which is like so sweet, and then like Promise Blender is like weirdly crazy. And I just listened to I've got this little songwriter, tower in my office just messing with it. And I was like, let me listen to the early Skillet last week, see what it sounds like through this new tower. And it's like this stuff was unhinged. We just made up stuff. It was like uh, reggae, mosh pit.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah,
awesome thing about music. If you can be creative, you can just try all kinds of different stuff. I feel like most musicians are creative. Like you're creative people, that's why you're making art, whatever it is. It might be super weird and goofy, but cool at the same time. And I feel like I mean, I don't want like there's some stuff it's like that's just unoriginal, it's boring, it doesn't grab me. But if it is something kind of goofy or interesting or unique, that's what draws you in.
yeah. I think that's what Eddie DeGarmo was DeGarmo and Key, and he was over um, Forefront Records at the time, and he was friends with our pastor from long ago because he's a Memphis guy. And our pastor sent that cassette, and he goes, "Rick, what is this? What is this band? Like these guys are weird, and how did you get these guys out of your church?" It's like they're just creative guys, It's like that stuff. Some of that didn't make the record because it was like a little too weird on the. I guess all that stuff's out there eventually. I don't know. I hadn't heard it in a long time, but
Yeah. So do you still keep in touch with the band? I mean, you still follow them and whatnot?
yeah. I mean, I don't. I'm not really. I'm not really like a jump on new music trend guy. Like I'm not listening to what's coming out very much, but I know when they hit it big, I watch. And every time I see them, it's like watching your friend do music, and it almost is. I have like 100 bands and artists, 300 or 400 coming out of the school that I've known over the years, and I like all their stuff. They're playing some coffee shop in Pennsylvania, and then it's like, oh, here's Corey also rocking on, in a show. So it feels like that to me, like normal people, like everybody I know, my students and all this. But um, and they came for Winter Jam here. Saw them a few months ago. We text every now and then, and if now that they're in Nashville, I think I'll maybe pop over to the church and see them more often. Wisconsin's a little bit tough, but
Yeah.
we're like lifelong friends, so that doesn't change as soon as we're together. It's good times.
Right. And it's hard because you both are doing different things. They'll be on tour making music. You're at the college. I mean, everyone's got life and life is busy and I feel like it's just a
Yeah,
common story. You have lifelong friends. You never fully disconnect, but you're not going to text every day and see them once a week and it's just kind of how life
yeah,
progresses.
yeah. I think our kids have never met probably, but they all do music of some kind. They're all grown and getting married and all, and it's like we would get together and be like, how do y'all not? Never mind. Your parents know everything about each other. So we spent our life together when we were your age. That's kind of where it's at now. So
Right.
it's fun.
So you left the band to start the Visible Music College. Where did that idea come from?
Well, uh, we were every tour we did in the early days, we'd have an opening band that was like from the local church or something. We did our own tours early on. We didn't jump on other tours. And so you always had these young kids that were the youth group, and they were either sweet kids with like pretty boring music or something, or there was a hot little band and like, hey, these girls are good. Let's talk to the label about them or something. But then their lifestyle was really not there. So I just foolishly thought, what if there was a place where we went to all the Christian colleges, their music programs were like choir and, French horn. And, it was like, man, and I'd just been to the university, so I was like, there ought to be a place that really does the training, but is like today's music and is Christian, is just discipleship meets good training, signable music. And like we went to YWAM bases and they're amazing people. We saw those bands play and they're like, they just need a little more savvy, recording, a little more stage presence, it's great. It's exciting what everybody's doing. There just wasn't that mix that I thought that was professional, modern music and college together. And I found out why 25 years later. College just doesn't play with modern music. It's just it is very hard to get education and the church and rock and roll to like each other and talk. It's so yeah, we've put a couple thousand people through great training, discipleship, and all kinds of arts. And but it started by just seeing those young youth group kids, just they needed a place to go. I thought they were there wasn't going to be anybody realizing the depth of their creativity except labels, and those guys weren't necessarily going to look at their lifestyle. So maybe both could work together. Who knows?
Yeah. No, did you ever think it would grow to like what it did today? Like when you initially started it, do you think you'd get to where you're at?
Um, no, not really. And I think, we're sort of circling back around to being a small school doing the, 100 students, 50 students, and mostly Memphis and online, so we grew to this multiple campuses and we just sort of we helped some schools start and all those things are going, but we're sort of, new generation. It's all digital economy and we're kind of going to refocus on podcasts and streaming worship and all the things that nowadays, people are having to prepare for the industry, branding, you know, strum your first chord. Okay, who are you as an artist? Like, I don't know. I just want one second chord.
Yeah. Yeah. Just another one of those ways where like making music has changed, over time. I mean, that's just part of it, right? If you look at you start at the 50s and the 40s and you work your way forward, you can see how everything grows off of everything and you can see how making music has changed, how putting it out, you can see how different genres are formed from each other. I mean, it just music evolves, especially with creative people like we talked about. It's just going to keep evolving. There's going to be something else new that'll come along and everyone will jump on board and you know.
Yep. Yeah. It's yeah, Memphis, people don't know much about Memphis, but it's like really the birthplace of rock and roll and all that. We're like a half mile here from Sun Studio where Johnny Cash and Elvis and all these guys got started, all the soul music and stuff that started here. Um, it's sort of my son plays in a soul, kind of a rock soul band on Beale Street, which is like, music where blues started and all that. And it's just amazing the kind of music people still love, and they'll find that music another way. They'll kind of recreate that feeling of the 50s or the 60s or something. They'll make it in new stuff. And I love genre mixing. That's one of my very favorite things is kind of appreciating previous music and kind of putting it into the new style or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, I do too, because it's super creative and it's not boring. There's sometimes I feel like new pop, especially, it doesn't feel original. It's like manufactured. It's let's pump out another record and just get it out there. The lyrics aren't very deep in some of these songs. The instruments are it's either all electronic or it's just kind of basic and I'm not a huge fan of that. Let's just pump out another record. There's no true feeling to the lyrics. There's no real meaning. It's just pump it out and get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. tried to be excited about Dua Lipa's bass player, and then I found out it was keyboard bass or something. I'm like, it's okay, well, it's a great programmer, whoever that is.
Right. Yeah, no, there's something about like listening to Metallica, listening to One and like the bass line for One, and just appreciating what that person can do. Or, listening to the Beatles and Paul McCartney on bass and like, wow,
Yeah,
that guy's got skill. But like when it's like when it's not a person, when it's like you said somebody programmed it and it's I mean like yeah, okay, that's cool that you did that, but
yeah,
you know, doesn't have the same feeling.
that's right. That's modern bands. I've loved Muse, some of the earlier records better, but just because they can play the instrument, they have interesting progressions, and it's sort of heavy Queen or something. It's kind of good mix of styles, and still I still like heavy stuff. That's pretty much my favorite stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love going to like if you go to a concert, I want to see guys shredding on the guitar. I want to see a sweet drum solo. I want to see
Yeah.
this awesome performance. Show me your skill. I want to be blown away like, holy crap, that guy just did that. It's insane.
I'll tell you a funny story from Sunshine Festival in Minnesota. I'm not sure if it's still going or not, but that was one of my favorite places to be. But um, about guitar skill. Basically, I probably was more skilled technically back then, although I still play and I have a band going for 25 years since Skillet. But it's like the Trey would throw me a drumstick and I just like just up and down on the thing. That's what got people to tell me after the show, "You're an amazing guitar player. I can't believe," and I'm just like, I went like this. And it is sort of like it's half showbiz and half you got to please different parts of the audience. But a lot of people loved my playing because I could put a drumstick on a fretboard.
Yeah.
It's like,
Look
yeah,
at that. That's so cool. Look what he's doing.
yeah, can't believe it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. There's something about live music too that it hits different. I love live music. I love going to concerts and shows, and
Yeah,
if you get to a good performance, it can sometimes I feel like it almost ruins it listening it online. Like if I go to a really good show and I
yeah,
hear it live, then I go and listen to it on Spotify. I'm like, this just doesn't hit the same.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah, live is it's one of the few things we really do well to as a community is be live music and playing art for one another. It's kind of very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, great feeling being on stage doing it too. That's probably why a lot of people find it hard to get out. That's probably the one thing I miss is big crowds doing stuff, but even small crowds in small places is still wonderful to share your art. It's great community building.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got back this past weekend. I went to a big metal concert, and it was a really cool venue. It was on a baseball field, so you could like spread out in different spots. I mean, they had mosh pits going up in the front, but if you didn't want to be in that, you could be in the back of like the outfield and kind of chill. And it was the summer of Loud. They've got
Hmm.
Parkway Drive, I Prevail, Kill Switch Engage, Beartooth, The Devil Wears Prada, and like a couple smaller bands, and they're doing this nationwide tour, all
Okay.
eight of these bands, and it
Wow.
was it was fantastic. Like just great performances. Parkway Drive's drummer, they had him in this circle, and at the end of the concert, in their last song, they lit all this fire up, and then they turned the circle completely upside down, and he was drumming upside down. At first, they were teasing it, they were just like side to side, and then they put him upside down. They left him like that for like 30 seconds, and he was just drumming away completely upside down. I'd never seen anything like that at a
Wow.
concert.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. That's really cool.
Like, what if you drop a drumstick? Like,
Yeah, it's not coming
slips out of
back.
your hand.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
your stick bag is attached, hanging off a drum. It's like pouring drumsticks on you while you're trying to play.
yeah. But it was just like I got home then and I started listening to some of their music and I was like, yeah, it's so much better live. I mean, you get that real emotion when you get a guy who's got a lot of energy on stage. You can't feel that energy like through a Spotify or through a CD
Yeah,
or what anything. You can't see
yeah,
that how much they're giving for the performance in a live show.
yeah. That's right. That's right. I enjoy yeah, I enjoy live music because they can extend things out and just sort of show what they're really thinking. That's the hard part of really recording is you have to go with something that you just put down. The original Skillet, I don't know if you've listened much to the first record, but the way we did Safe with You was sort of reminiscent of Smashing Pumpkins 1979. And that was a producer decision. John was like, we're not playing it like this ever. Like we were like, I know, like we're going to play it passionately with all these toms, but the record is super straight. And live, we would just like, this is like big, emotional, huge. It's just so cute on the record, you know. But that's the kind of
Right. Yeah. Sounds like that. I've heard from other musicians that similar stuff where like the record label kind of tells you like you have to do it this way. The band doesn't want to. They're like, no, that's not what we're trying to get at. But the record label's like, nah, you've gotta. This is the way we're gonna put it out there, and you kind of get your
yeah,
creativity taken away a little bit.
a little. You know, now 25 years later, I've been the record label. This our record labels, Madison Line Records. But I've been on both sides. I'm kind of split all the time. I encourage people to talk to each other and to just take a long time to decide about relating together because you need to know it's about a relationship with a producer and a label and a band. It really is about relationship. People rush into that too much. But yeah, you know, they would come back and say, "Hey, we need another." They actually did on the first record. We need another. You know, slow song or another pop tune, like a acoustic music. We're like, well, and we finally did on that first record. I played like three bars of Saturn for the producer. I was like, this thing is like four chords, and it was like one of those God download songs. You can, and they're like, immediately, let's go record this, and that became a single. You know, I was just like, it's not really Skillet, you know, me and John didn't work on it hard. You know, it was like a song I had, you know, but that's how it comes together. They wanted something. And then Dana Key, who's passed away, but was a mentor really to get the band in there. He played the acoustic on it. I don't even know if he got credited. I probably got credited for playing, but I did play on it. Well, I played on every song, just to be clear. It was mostly Skillet playing. Like that, you have to say that because everybody gets these other bands to do stuff. Like we played everything except Dana was really good at acoustic guitar, and he said, "Just come in and listen to it. You don't have to keep it." They were real, you know, nice about it. And I said, you know, hey, it sounds good. I probably can't. It'll take me 8 hours of strumming to get that perfect part. Um, I don't care about acoustic guitar anyway. It sounds really good. I hope you. I don't even know if he got credited, but he, you know, I credit him here. He's in heaven enjoying it. But uh, it is it's a good relationship. I think it's still, as far as I know, a good relationship with Skillet and the original producers of our records. But they loved it, you know, or they said they did. They said, "Hey, we're going to get a Grammy off this," you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's funny that I mean Skillet got nominated for some Grammys later on. Didn't you did you hand out the participation circuits or I was reading online something that you for the 2005 Grammy you were had something to do with the band and that or
I was at the Grammys, and um, you know, I was pretty big in the Memphis Grammy scene at the time, you know, working with the Grammys here. I went and saw them get awarded, but it was off camera. You know, it was like this other build. I don't remember, you know, there was something I signed or helped with, but I didn't like present at the on stage. I would remember that.
yeah,
But went to the 50th Grammys, and that was a good year to be nominated. And yeah, I personally am not Grammy nominated. I make sure people, you know, don't hear me,
right.
you know, it's just, but my, you know, hey, Skill is Grammy nominated and it's a big honor. I think they should have won way more. 2013, they were one of the biggest bands on earth as far as sales, but people just they don't want Christian bands to be,
Right.
you know, not a conspiracy. They just don't care about Christian bands enough. But when I
Yeah.
was in the band, they were first getting we were first getting our first, you know, mainstream labels looking at us and coming to shows, and they didn't understand Christian music really. They didn't understand the Holy Spirit, you know.
Right.
So it was in the on the shows, they were just like, "What is going on here?" And we're like, "God, the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit loves this. God loves this, and you do too, and you don't know why, but it's
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
music's one of the best ways to spread the word of God because I mean everybody listens to music.
yeah.
Um, so if it's something that everybody's already doing, you can get a catchy tune with a great message. It's a perfect way to get it out there and spread it to a ton of people.
It is, yeah. And I listen to music for lyrics, and when people don't, I'm kind of stunned that they are humans because I'm like, why do you not?
Yeah.
How are you not listening to the words? It's like it's weird, you know. But
Yeah, no, totally. And I love to talk to, musicians if you have the chance to talk to a musician like, what do you mean by this? Like, 'cause it's not always straightforward in a song what they're saying and how they're presenting a message and I like to hear what their thoughts were when they were writing it. And it sometimes you're kind of blown away. You're like, wow, like I thought it was something else, but this is awesome, what you guys are getting at
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's great. I encourage that's one of the things I really am big about with my students is, you I don't care if you're a worship leader or whatever you think your job's gonna be like well, you need to be quiet on stage about this kind of thing if you're a worship leader, but I love to get musicians to be able to talk about what they do because typically they're kind of quiet people or they're sort of, uh, introverts and just writing stuff. I'm like, just get people need to hear the story. You need to get better at storytelling what you're doing because you're doing something important. It's nobody's ever done it just like you. I just try to be an encourager to that kind of thing, the story.
Yeah, and it is important. Music is very important. It brings people together. It gives people hope. I mean, there's music can have such an impact on somebody's life. Like if whatever your favorite band is, your favorite song, if you're having a bad day, that might be what lifts you out of the dumps, just listening to that music.
Yeah.
People have stories about certain songs changing their lives because of the lyrics. And I mean,
Yep.
art is important, music's important. It's a great way for people to connect. There's just so much to it.
Yeah, that was some of the best stories still today from the time that I was in Skillet, people saying, "Hey, this literally saved my life. I'd like to come see you guys at a concert. I was about to end it all and I listened to this music. I'm like, man, can't beat that, just
No,
and coming to the Lord. So
that's powerful.
yeah,
When
yeah.
you hear that. Why don't we end the episode on like what's your life advice? You've done a lot of different things, playing in bands and now teaching students and all this stuff. Looking back on life, like what would be one piece of advice you would give to somebody younger, on maybe something you wish somebody would have told you or just whatever your advice is.
Yeah, I think it's probably to treat people well, which is, everybody's advice. But I mean, not only are people inherently created by God and important and of value. Um, but if you can slow down enough to see, uh, there's a good practice of doing it. You to just practice being generous and grateful and recognize people are working hard and just if there's something you can give to God to uh, work on you, let him work on you is patience because um, people say don't pray for that, but I'm like, I don't know. Just you need it so bad to just take time and treat people well around you. And believe me, those same people will be important later in life. I found out stuff about people because they didn't treat me well. And I'm like, later on, I had a chance to help them out. And it's like, it's not that I don't want to help them. It's like they are not ready, and it's sad because you didn't even know that you messed up because you treated people um, bad. So yeah, do unto others and be think of yourself less than others. It's like it's not just Jesus goofing around. It's like it's it's the way to live. So that's my life advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. The world, if the world needs anything, it's more love and more kindness. I mean, and that trickles down to everything. I mean,
Yeah,
that's such a broad statement. It's not, so that would solve the world's problems. As basic as it sounds, if more people were just, and people always say like, well, I can't have any effect on that war or that people hating it. But it's just you being nice to the other guy walking down the street, and it all starts there, as simple as it is. If everyone's nice to each other it'll ripple out, bloom like a flower, and that's where the real change starts.
yeah, yeah. Just being open to that, and community is, we were made to be with people, and that's maybe something for the youngest generation here. It's like more anxiety and just nervous about being around people. Man, I'm not a therapist, but I feel like you've got to get into a place where you can let some people in your life, and that helps by just being grateful for people that are there and starting, you know, open your heart up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ken, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing the early days of Skillet and talking about the college and just music in general. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been great, man.
Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.